Oh, all right. Well, welcome to Grout Museum. This is a Sci-Friday, but it's a very special one. Steve and I just got finished eating our Thanksgiving dinner, and we have some leftovers here on our plates, and our mom has asked us to clean up, so we're gonna go ahead and clean up. But all this stuff seems like kind of a waste to just throw away, so we're not gonna just throw it away. We're gonna do some experiments with it, and then we'll throw it away. But might as well reuse what we can, right? So, our first experiment is actually going to use this old potato that Uncle Joe brought that no one decided to cook. So, we have our uncooked potato here. And what's really interesting about it is that this is a fun thing you can try and trick your parents or your older adult family members with. But you can tell them you can stab through this potato with a straw. Now, if you just try and do it like this, nothing, right? But there's a secret trick to it. If you put your thumb over the back end, you can stab all the way through that potato with a straw. Now, the reason this works is because of air pressure. So if I try and stab this potato without my thumb over it, there's no air pressure inside of the straw. So the only thing pressing against the potato is the end of the straw itself. Whereas if I put my thumb over it, now the air can't get out of the backside. And so as you stab through it, it punctures a hole through the whole potato and leaves you with this on the end, because the whole thing is now pressing, including the air inside of the straw, but only if you cover the end there. All right, so we're done with that one. Steve, what did you think? Pretty cool experiment with leftovers, right? We're gonna go on to our next one though. Now our next one we only have because Steve only drinks water with a lemon wedge in it. And so we had to get a lemon just for Steve. Hindsight, Steve can't drink the water, so it was kind of a pointless purchase. But we did it anyway because we love Steve. So we have these two halves of a lemon. Now, these two halves of a lemon, they're very, very sour, so you're not going to just eat these, but we are going to do a science experiment with them. And we're going to do it using this little kit here, which is something you can actually get in the Grout store. So if this is an experiment you want to try, we are going to make a lemon clock. So in this kit, we have a little electronic clock, digital clock, 2 copper metal strips, and 2 zinc metal strips. If I can get them out, I'll show you. There's a zinc metal strip. So what we need to do to set this up is to put one of each into each half of our lemon. Once we have those 4 in there, we need to attach our wires. Now, I'm going to attach them with a little bit of tape here. With the one from the clock, the red one goes into one of the 2 copper ones. And I'm going to just tape it together like that. And the black one goes into the zinc one on the other half of the lemon. In. And I'm going to tape it together, just like that. Now, the last thing is this white wire that comes separate, and it needs to go into the other 2. So this one will go through the zinc one on this one, and the copper one on this one. Just like this. Now, we should see, and I'm not going to set the time, but you can see I have a working digital clock now. The reason that this makes this clock work is because of the fact that this lemon is acidic. It actually acts as an acidic electrolyte. And so the reason you have these two metal bars and that you need those is that they actually create an electric current between the two kinds of metals. And so they use that acidic environment in the lemon to continue the loop. And so in an electric circuit, you have to have a full loop. It has to start at one place and end at that place for it to be an electric loop in order for it to work. If I were to take one of these out, turns off. Put it back in, starts back up. So you have to have a complete loop for this lemon clock to work. So that's it for our lemon experiment. But there's another use for lemons that you could do, and that is you can eat them. But they're super sour. I definitely do not recommend that. So I don't think I'm gonna eat the lemons. I'm just gonna get rid of those two. On to our third experiment for today. And that involves some leftover drinks. So what we have are a partially drank cup of pop and a partially drank cup of milk. Now, normally, if I didn't want to drink the rest of these, I'd just probably throw them away, right? Try to put them down the sink drain, something like that. But these two things are very specifically can actually do a very cool reaction. So I do want to clarify that I am using Coke, but you can use almost any soda for this as long as it has a specific thing in it called phosphoric acid. That's what's important in this experiment. So if you take your Coke and you pour the milk into it, make sure it doesn't go over, and we let it sit for a little while. Well, the interesting thing about science is it doesn't always quite work the way you think it's supposed to work if you do things wrong. So there are these things called variables. There are things that you change in the experiment, and I apparently changed too many because this did not work. So the variable I changed it seems that I shouldn't have changed was that I should have done it in a bottle. So if I bring in this bottle that I did the same thing with, I have the Coke, I put milk in, and then that Coke and the milk interact with each other. And what happens is there's a thing in the Coke called phosphoric acid. And there's the proteins in milk. And those two things, when you combine them together, they kind of attach to each other. And so basically what you get at the bottom here, you see that? That's curdled milk with phosphoric acid attached to it. And you end up with a clearer kind of Coke material, whatever kind of liquid that might be. Because all of that stuff, when it combines together, it gets heavier. And when it gets heavier, it becomes denser, and so it drops to the bottom. And so you can see the heavier stuff drops to the bottom, whereas our light liquid floated to the top. And so it separates out the color from the rest of the Coca-Cola because it connects to that phosphoric acid, pulls it out of the pop. So, we're to our final experiment for today. And the last thing that our mom has asked us to do is clean off the table. So, Steve, if you could please get the dishes off the table, I'm going to take care of the tablecloth. Well, I don't have time to wait for you, Steve. I need to get to my tablecloth. And so I'm going to take this tablecloth without moving the plate. I'm going to go ahead and put my tablecloth away because I don't have time for you, Steve. A lot of times you might think, and you may have seen that in a magic show maybe, because a lot of times the people try and tell you that that is magic that they're doing. But magic is always explainable by science. So what's actually happening there is one of Newton's laws of motion states that an object at rest tends to stay at rest. And so as long as I don't add a lot of force to this plate, that plate won't move. So this is a special type of tablecloth. It's made out of silk, and it doesn't have any kind of edging. It's just the material to the end. That's why you kind of see it fraying a little bit here. But if you have that kind of tablecloth and you pull it quick enough, you can get it out from underneath a heavy plate like that without adding a lot of force to it. So that plate doesn't move because I'm not putting any energy into that moving that plate. All right, Steve, well, that's it for our science experiment today. You still need to take care of these plates, but I'm gonna go ahead and go watch a football game.